Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Happy Monday.
Monday at 8 a.m.
At 8 a.m. And just I'll say now, starting next week in anticipation of school going back, we'll be switching this to 9:30 a.m. so that all the people that have to get their kiddos to school, if you're sending them, can do that and then jump on.
And they moved. Brevard County starts August 24th now.
Yep.
We start tomorrow.
Do you really?
Yes. So we registered last week. I guess today Jesse and I have to do like the orientation because we chose the virtual option.
Oh,
it's so interesting to see like the new rules. Like we have an app, so we get anytime they add stuff. It's very interesting. Like even school buses, and I think I've always drove my kids back and forth to school, but it's interesting. So it's like one student per row or per seat,
right?
Except for family members. It's just interesting. When you're allowed to arrive, it's like school buses arrive at this time. If you're being dropped off, it's at this time. If you're a student driver, it's this time. And they're doing the same thing when they release, and they've added an extra lunch. And they want you to bring your own lunch, or they'll have grab and goes. So not your normal, like I remember Palm Bay High was really cool. Where we're at is, I feel like we're just in a 2-story elementary because it's so small and just weird. Like there's no outside common areas, and that's
right.
all there is for, especially in a high school level. But it's just going to be interesting, and they take your temperature upon arrival.
Are they? Wow. I've sort of, and I hate to say, sort of buried my head in the sand a little bit about this whole thing because I don't really want to think about it, but Gavin wants to go back to in-person school. So we're going to do that. I talked to him yesterday. I'm going to sign him up for the bus, but I'm probably going to drive him because that just feels like a hotbed of incubation to me.
Yeah, they are encouraging, if at all you can, take your students back and forth, to do that for sure versus having them ride the bus. I don't think any of the buses, when Jesse did ride the bus, they weren't very full, but I imagine some areas are pretty packed.
Right.
So yeah, how do they do that? I know Leo's sister runs buses up in Jersey, and they were talking about like the clear shower curtains and all that. And I'm thinking that's a lot of work for cleanup.
Yes.
How do you still have to clean that?
Right.
And
right.
kids are kids.
Yeah.
I just can't even imagine trying to be a bus driver, or even, I guess they would have to have an aide because a bus driver can't
make sure everybody's social distancing or whatever. Wow. I don't know. It's interesting times is all I can say. It really, really is. And it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. And I know a lot of people are struggling with their decision on what to do. And so, I hope everybody makes the right decision for their family and what they're comfortable with, and it goes well.
I see like both sides, and I know just for myself, going anywhere and being around people, it just feels so weird now. Like I don't know how to act, and I can't imagine for a kid, what that's even like for a kid to not have that social environment to be around other kids. Because I know how I feel as an adult.
Right.
Like, I don't know, you meet people or you haven't seen somebody in a long time, and I'm not much of a hugger, or at least I never thought of myself as a hugger. We're not allowed to hug, and now I'm like, what do you do now? Like,
right. Well, yeah, no hugging, no handshaking. It's very odd.
And it's like, what do you do? It's almost like when you leave the house and you realize you forgot your phone, you almost feel naked. So the same thing when I go to meet people and I just want to hug them, but then it's like, what do you do? How am I supposed to act? I don't even know. What's the right thing? It's interesting times, and gosh, I kind of want life to go back to normal. I want to come down there. Just craziness. I did get to watch all of the graduations live. Thank goodness. Hunter flew down there so he could watch.
Did he?
Well, you figured, Palm Bay High was where he went. That's where all of his best friends are. His name is even in the yearbook or whatever, and they got the name right. So he was there, and I was watching it on my computer. And So he sent me pictures, when his friends were going up, and I was sending him the screenshots of the live feed I was getting, which was up close, and he's in the stand, so he could get those pictures. But it was very emotional because seeing everybody with the masks, and I don't know, it was way more emotional than I thought it would be. It was just,
I think it's because the times are so different, and you're seeing these kids finally graduate. Oh, I'm gonna get emotional just thinking about it, honestly. And now they're graduating when their seats are so far apart, and they all have their masks on, and it feels so surreal. It's just, and you think they missed their whole last quarter of their senior year, and yeah, I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot. So.
Yeah, we have so school starts tomorrow officially, but the high school graduation is Saturday here.
Oh.
But wow. I mean, it's nothing like it was supposed to be at UT, and all the schools, I guess, have their times at UT, and Hunter, the guard teams, do all these performances. But of course, none of that is happening. So we're going to be on the football field like we would be down there, but.
Right.
But it's weird that they're already starting the next venture, college or whatever they're doing, and then
they're graduating now. I know. I guess they need some sort of closure. I don't know how I would feel if I was a senior. Would I want to graduate after I already started college? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess I didn't do any of that. I was working. I didn't care. It wasn't whatever. I got my shirt. I don't care. I don't know. It wasn't. But I feel bad for those. I mean, I know Hunter really wanted to be down there for Palm Bay High, so
right.
He paid for it. He's got
important too. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's got a job. He paid for it. He did all that, and I guess we're all red state, so it's not like a craziness to have to quarantine. I don't know how that'll work. I just can't keep up. But anyway, so we've got some pretty good topics.
Yeah. So. This week, let's talk about understanding a kickout clause and backup offers and the difference between the two, and what our MLS allows with regards to that, and what it means to your buyer or seller. So I'm going to do backup offers first, actually, because we're seeing more and more of this where properties are going under contract and listing agents are marking it for backup offers. And I think people are just doing it now just to keep the property active, sort of, so to speak. I mean, it doesn't stay active. It shows for backup offers. But what that means is there is a legally binding contract in effect that's been signed. And this is a question I get a lot. The buyer does not have to agree for the seller to be able to list the property for backup offers, because that backup offer has no effect on that first contract that's in place, right? So if the listing agent and the seller want to get backup offers, those offers just stack below the original first offer. So what happens is you basically, if you have a buyer that's interested in seeing a house for backup, and we kind of talked about this on our Facebook chat group, and I said I'm not a huge fan as a buyer's agent to even show a property for backup, to be honest. And I know there's been many cases where it's worked out for the backup buyers, but if a buyer needs a property and they need it within a time frame, sitting and waiting for backup is probably not a good idea. But I think if they love the house, then it makes sense. So you basically submit an offer with a backup addendum, which spells out what happens if the first contract cancels, and you actually negotiate the terms of the backup fully, and everybody signs off of it, and it has the backup addendum. And that just says what happens, if the first one cancels, then the seller has to let the backup offer know there's a certain amount of days. And you can also, because this came up last weekend or this weekend, there can be more than one backup offer, and you just stack them. Backup offer number 1, backup offer number 2, backup offer number 3. I recently had a property that had 2 executed backup offers. But the interesting thing in that is, by the time we were at the appraisal process, those 2 buyers had already found another house. So those backups fell out. So So that's what a backup offer is. A kickout clause, and we tend to call it the 72-hour kickout clause, but you could also make it a 48-hour kickout clause or a 24-hour kickout clause. Usually you put that with a contract when the buyer has some sort of contingency that's kind of iffy, and that's usually the home to sell contingency, especially if the home isn't under contract yet. So the kickout clause allows you to keep the property as active, so you can continue to market it as active. The very first line of the narrative, so that the whole world can see, has to say whatever it is: 72-hour kickout clause, 48-hour kickout clause. That's our MLS rule. Now, the general public has no clue what that means, so they just see it as active. They call their agent, say, I want to see it, and then you see the kickout clause, and you explain to them there is a contract that's in effect. We would make our offer, and if we come to terms with the seller, that's the other part that I think a lot of people miss. The second offer, the backup, that it wouldn't be a backup, the offer that's coming in under the 72-hour kickout, you fully negotiate that. And at that time, then the seller has to present that offer to the first buyer with the kickout. And depending on what you've previously negotiated, that buyer either gives more escrow money that becomes now hard or non-refundable, and they drop all their contingencies. Now that really, I can only see a buyer doing that, of dropping the contingencies, if their house is under contract, appraisal's been done, loan commitment maybe, because now they're taking the chance because they're going to lose their escrow money, or that buyer cancels and that next offer comes in and is then in effect the offer.
So on the MLS, because I've been noticing this more and more with the backups, is when it's in backup status, is it contingent?
It is.
I notice, I guess the way the MLS feeds, when we're like on our website, it looks active.
Correct.
Unless it's pending.
Correct.
It still shows until you like open it up, and then that's when you see like backup offers. And I've been seeing that a lot lately.
Correct.
Looking at properties, and I think that's so. I guess even the kick out, it's still active because there's a kick out. And same thing with the backups, but at least that shows as contingent or backup status.
Right.
The consumer would know what any of that means, but
exactly. So that's the part about the backup that I don't love. You actually mark it as contingent, but then backup is one of the choices. So inspection, appraisal, whatever, backup is the choice. And when you mark it as backup, it still feeds out to the world looking like it's active, but it says backup. So it's really, it can be frustrating because especially in this market where we have so few homes, you can have this buyer who keeps calling you on backup houses.
Yeah, it's just the last couple of weeks I've noticed that, just opening properties up because it looks active until I go into the details, and
then you realize, and then you're like, oh wait, yeah. And the other part of that, see, I try and when I market contingent, or sometimes I market contingent for backup, and depending on the property, I might keep it that status until the appraisal's done. But if I'm not even worried about the appraisal, I just keep it that way until inspection's done. But I'm seeing things that are marked for backup and it's been under contract for 30 days. So you don't want to waste anybody's time showing that property unless I call the agent and say, where are you at? And they'll be like, oh, it's closing on Wednesday. And it's like, well, take it out of backup then, because it's just a waste of everybody's time. And I'm not a big fan of having my time wasted. So, but that's what we're seeing is they're marketing as backup, and they're not ever changing it to pending, ever, just from backup to closed.
Okay. And so, I've just seen that a lot, and it's interesting how it feeds through, but it'll stay on. Like, I know for our website, our setting is actives only. Like, we don't want pending properties, because on a consumer level, I mean, it's all about the consumer experience, I think, like on a website. And I think it's confusing. People hate that, like, oh, well, blah, blah, blah. But I was like, I don't understand. Like, we have it set up. But that's when I realized active and contingent feeds over as kind of active.
Right.
Still.
Right. So So yeah, it can be frustrating, and then understanding the two, because sometimes you have an agent who's never done either as a listing agent, and they don't even understand the difference between the two things, because a backup is just that. You will be in second position or third position, whereas if you're making an offer with a kickout clause, you within that however many hours can be that first contract.
It's basically going back to number one, like, hey,
and I try not
wanting to come out of my mouth. I can't really say live. So, but basically they have to.
I try not to, when I have a listing in it and it's a home to sell contingency, I always recommend doing the kickout clause. But at the same time, as a buyer's agent, am I showing houses that have a kickout clause? They have to really love it on the internet for me to be able to show it. Because again, it's another thing of kind of getting your hopes up too high. And if you have to wait 72 hours, that's 3 days. And in this market, when houses are going within the first few hours, we're seeing houses. There was somebody in Lab Coat Agents who commented about, oh, this home has been on the house for a week, and now the listing agent telling me she has multiple offers. Who here believes that? And you wouldn't believe how many people responded, I believe it. I said I had a house on the market for a whole year. I've had a listing on the market an entire year, and I got 2 offers in one day. The market is such that there's no houses. So even ones that have been on the market forever are going under contract quickly. So do you want to make an offer with a 72-hour kickout clause and possibly lose 3 days when you can be finding another house that you love?
Crazy. And even when because the stats just came out from last month, and 2.1 months of inventory, like we were slowly getting to that 5-6 month where it might convert more to like the buyer's market. Like, what is it, like a 6 month is when that's kind of like even, and we've been around that 5, like teetering,
right,
4 and 6. So it's like, oh, it might be converting more over. But now it's down to 2 months inventory, which even at the height of the market, I don't remember that number being that low.
No, usually like 2.5, 2.6, 2.7, which is still low.
Right.
But to be at 2.1 is really, and that's why even, it's every time when I post the numbers from the week before, which I'll do when we're done with this, work on getting listings. You need to work on getting listings, because that's, it's just, but then it gets crazy. Like we talked about last year with the multiple last week with the multiple offers, when Kerry
has been a little crazy.
I know, when Kerry asked the question, I had a listing and it was multiple offers. What's the protocol? And it's like, there really isn't one. It's up to what you and the seller want to do. And it's incredibly stressful because you have all these people wanting to get the property.
And I know how stressful it is if you're the buyer's agent, because I know how frustrating that was, even with me moving. But you have people that can't just pay cash, or people that may need, FHA or just different loan types, and how hard it is for that.
Right.
For any buyer to be able to, when you're competing, it's.
Well, and here's even when you're competing. So here's even an example. I put an offer in on a house yesterday, $500,000 home, and my buyers are doing VA. They're not doing VA because they don't have any money. They're doing VA because they can do it with 100% financing. The interest rate is super duper low, and they can preserve their cash to either put in a pool or do whatever they want. And because interest rate is so low, why would you use your cash? And then there was a potential for another offer coming in, and I started to get nervous, because especially in that price range, sometimes sellers don't understand not putting money down. They think, oh, these guys are risky, or these people have plenty of money. If
my brother did the same thing when he just bought his house. He did VA. He's got plenty. So
Right. But it's like free money. So why wouldn't you do that with a low interest rate? But then you worry, in a multiple offer situation, are they going to select the conventional loan 20% down because it appears to be stronger? but it may not be, you know, so it's hard right now. Thankfully, the second set of buyers, and it's funny because the listing agent sent me the text from the other agent so that because again, this house had been on the market for 75 days. I think so that I would know that she wasn't just telling me this, you know, and thankfully the other buyers decided not to make an offer because they didn't want to get into a multiple offer situation. So, but
yeah, I just think, you know, definitely trying to get those listings and using all the data that, you know, we've been going over, the charts that you do every single week, trying to make sure that you're able to use that to your advantage. I know that we spoke about the first app, like, did you actually download the app? Are you actually using it? I mean, if you haven't already, or if you did, just remember you have, what is it? It's 90 days free.
90 days free. So here's a funny thing. So I actually, it's a reminder to me that I need to be using that first app. So I have this person I sold a property to very close to my home. So I tend to pass her home often. She has referred, I can't tell you how many people to me in her neighborhood to sell. And I drove by the other day and someone else's sign was in her front yard. I was horrified. Right, exactly that face. I was horrified. I mean, and mainly because it'd be one thing if I didn't keep in touch or she didn't refer other people to me, but she refers people to me all the time. And so who knows? I mean, who knows? The other agent is a great agent, different company. But who knows? Maybe they're good friends now. Maybe they're, you know, in some Bible study together or who knows? But I was like, and if I had been using my first app, I probably would have seen, because that showed that collects data from that person doing searches. And that's kind of how they figure out that someone's maybe going to be selling.
It's so important to be using the first app. Get it started. On our Elite University, I do have, if you haven't been there in a while, make sure to go check it out. We are constantly adding new content and courses. I do have a bunch of videos on first, getting started from signing up on the app to just really kind of diving deep, organizing your database. So definitely that's Max Elite U. We'll put the link in the comments. It's also in our newsletter and the units. And I mean, it's everywhere. But go into that courses and check out that first app if you haven't used it. If you did download it the last time we mentioned it, that's about as far as you got. You need to get in there. I mean, listings are gold right now at 2.1 month inventory. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You need to be using this free tool to be able to organize your sphere, see what they're doing, see if there's anybody that's considering, you know, listing their home, because that's who you need to be going after, and using all the stats that we're constantly pushing out for you to your advantage and trying to win over these listings, because it's crazy.
It is crazy. It is crazy. And so I'll just give a shout out to Mark Lindo, who is one of our newest agents, and he has been doing a lot of cold calling. And I was at my mother's the other day, and she doesn't really check her messages, or she does, I don't know. So I always check and clear out her messages. And there was a message from Mark Lindo asking her if she wanted to sell her house. I was like, wait a minute, what? Like, I was like, for a minute, I was confused. Is this my cell phone? Is he calling me with a question? Oh no, he's, you know, I mean, and he is rocking and rolling, trying to get listings out there, you know? So let the new guy get the listings, but don't let him take your listings, you know what I mean? So.
Your mom.
I know.
But it's great. So let's see, what is our activity of the week?
So, excuse me. I'm getting new glasses so that I won't be doing this all the time, so I can see the screen. So take some time this week to ask these questions of yourself and to help put things into perspective. Is there part of your life that you're not happy with and you feel like you don't have any choice there? If you do have a choice, what would that choice look like? What could you do to change that? And what's preventing you from making that choice? Because it really is a choice. I mean, I talk about this all the time, me and exercising. Like, what's preventing me from getting off the couch and just exercising? And laziness, I think, but there's got to be something. They always say there's something deeper. But
how Tony Robbins is like, when it's a must, like you'll make it happen. But if it's a want,
right?
Like I remember that part.
So,
I guess it's still a want, and I did all the research. I found the place I want to go to, and then the world kind of changed. So
right. So whatever your problem is, take that problem and try and flip it over upside down to get a new perspective of it, and find the key choices where you once saw none. So find out what choices you can make to change that and make it better. Yeah.
And that goes right with that thought of the week, where it's like, you are today where your thoughts have brought you, and where you'll be tomorrow is where your thoughts will take you. So I thought that was pretty deep.
No, and that's so true. And it's funny, I always give my buyers or sellers this thing, and I always started off with, this is going to sound really like fluffy and tree hugging, but honestly, your negativity or your worry, stop it. The house deal is going to go through if we all think positively about it. And I know that sounds crazy, but if you're thinking positive and we're doing all the steps we need to do to make this sale a reality, it will happen. But if you're constantly being, oh no, this is going to happen. What if my loan isn't approved? Why wouldn't your loan be approved? You got pre-qualified. You already sent them your bank statements. You've told them the truth, right? Yes, your loan will be approved, So I always give that speech. And it's funny, I'm working with a daughter of a buyer that I had 4 or 5 years ago, the mother, and the daughter is a worry wart. Oh my gosh. And she's worrying. And we were texting back and forth one night, and I said, I'm going to give you my speech about positivity tomorrow. And when I met her tomorrow, she says, my mother told me you gave her the same speech. And she goes, but she wouldn't tell me what it was. She told me that you would tell me. And I thought that was funny. So keep it positive.
I think it's so, and for me, it was eliminating the news, was able to kind of clear my mind and just really focus on the things that I need to do, and just focus on more of myself, versus, because it is so hard for me, the news and even some aspects of social. And it's probably why I just post a lot of animal stuff, and I don't know.
Puppies all day long. So just because now I started talking so much, give us that thought of the day one more time.
Oh, the thought of the day is, you are today what your thoughts have brought you. What you'll be tomorrow is where your thoughts will take you.
There you go. I like that.
I thought that was pretty deep. It resonated with everything that's going on. And it's just about clearing your mindset, whether you want to do yoga or, meditation. I just think clearing of all of that, the noise, there's so much noise and distractions, and just be able to focus and go back to your business plan. What are you not doing? What can you be doing? And just focus on yourself and your business and your family. And
and that just made me think of a quick thing, because I sent out an email yesterday of Katie Lance's
the content calendar. And I just did that in a session I did last week with somebody. And that content calendar is wonderful.
And she even in the webinar that I watched last week, and I posted one of the slides from it, again, and we said this the whole time we were doing all the meetings, the coffee talk and the happy hour at home. Be mindful of how people are feeling about what's going on with COVID. Ask them if there's anything you can do to help, and stay positive.
Yeah, social's definitely different. Usually I'm posting all these back to school. I'm going to be super sad. One of my favorite days are the first day of school, because you have all the first day of school with the kids,
right,
all dressed up. And then the last day when you have the side by side and how much they've changed.
I know.
We're just in different times right now. And I don't even know, do you post back to school? Because all the pictures are kids all together and happy. And
then you have the commenting, oh, you sent your kids to school? Ay.
Right. So I don't know. I mean, I can't even do back to school. So I'm like, well, gosh, that's all I ever do. Like August is all back to school. And I guess now I'm like, well, should I be posting all those graduation posts that were really back in May? But I guess now is when they actually
I know.
graduated. So, or the ceremony, I don't know. It's so hard, but mindful is pretty much ended up being my word of the year. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just something that I'm constantly thinking of because I mean everybody's in different places because they have different circumstances. I get that. I mean, I don't know. It's just different times, but I think that's a perfect word for everything that you do.
Yep.
From social to meeting with people to showing properties, meeting. It's just mindful. It's a good word.
It is a good one. And then we can end it on this, but I'll see agents or builders reps or people posting stuff on Facebook that I think is really controversial and something to always remember while you're being mindful. And I get it. It's your Facebook page or your Instagram page or your whatever, but you're still ultimately representing Remax Elite and Remax as a whole, and just be mindful of that. I mean, if you're posting something super controversial, even if it's about a mask, maybe don't, maybe don't comment on somebody else's position because it's just.
You just don't know where, I mean, everybody has their own story and why they think the way that they do. And I think it's fine. I mean, I want to be mindful of everything. I mean, up here, it's a little different, even though some counties are mask required. I mean, we went to a place over the weekend and they had the little thing, like they were required, everyone's supposed to be wearing a mask. And I look inside and I'm like, nobody has a mask on.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I always have it. So if people are, I throw it on. But the only place that we went to was Walmart. And of course, that is a requirement now. But other than that, even though the entire county everywhere was
interesting,
was required, there was nobody. I mean, even the salesmen didn't have a mask.
Wow.
I mean, they'll just kind of have it like around, but it's different. Like I always have it because I don't, I'm fine. I hate it, but I'll do it.
Right.
But I just try to be mindful. If there is people, then absolutely.
I think that's going to be the word of the year for sure.
Yep. It is for mine. So if you have any suggestions on future topics, let us know. Comment below, comment in our group, email us, anything like that. But until next week, wake up, kick ass, and repeat.
Bye, everyone.